That night I dragged my granddaughter out of that basement. Her small fists beating against my chest, her screams tearing through the dark. I thought I was saving her. I can still feel Ruby's fingernails digging into my forearms. Still hear her voice, raw and desperate. "Grandma, please, you're breaking the rules," Daddy says. That's when I knew. That's when the truth hit me like cold water. I wasn't rescuing her. I was stealing her faith, the same way mine was stolen 56 years ago. If you're listening to this, if you, too, were ever hurt by the very people you loved most, if you were controlled, silenced, manipulated, or betrayed by family, then stay with me. Before I go back to where it all unraveled, I need one thing from you. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from, because I need to know I'm not alone in this. I need to know that somewhere out there, someone understands what it feels like to have failed the very people you were trying so desperately to protect. The Uber driver steadied my arm as I climbed out, my new titanium knee screaming with each movement. "You need help with that bag, ma'am?" "I've got it. I didn't." But at 70, you learn when to lie about fine. Elise burst through the front door before I'd taken 2 steps. "Mom!" She flew down the path, and for a moment, just a beautiful, piercing moment, she was 8 years old again, running to me after school with scraped knees and grass-stained shorts. Then I felt how thin she was when she hugged me, bird bones under expensive linen. "Why didn't you call? We would have picked you up." "I wanted to surprise you." I cupped her face. When had these hollows appeared under her cheekbones? When had her eyes started looking so tired? "How's my girl?" "Good. Really good." The smile didn't reach those exhausted eyes. "Come inside. Adrian's excited you're here." I doubted that. The house was beautiful. Of course it was. Perched in the hills, all wood and glass and money. But inside, something felt wrong. The air was too sweet, too thick with lavender. Everything arranged with suffocating precision. No clutter, no life, no proof that an 11-year-old girl lived here. "Where's Ruby?" I asked. I brought her something. I'd packed Ruby's favorite, my old copy of Anne of Green Gables, the one Elise had loved, with our notes scribbled in the margins across 2 generations. "This is where I cried," Elise had written at 8. "Me too, baby," I'd written back. Elise's face did something strange, tightened. "She's downstairs, in her reflection room." "Her what?" It's part of Adrian's method. Her voice shifted into something rehearsed, distant. His reframe retreat protocol. It helps her process emotions and develop self-regulation. Self-regulation. My granddaughter was 11. I want to see her. Once she goes through the whole thing, we can't stop it halfway. It makes her slip back. Elise touched my arm, her hand trembling. "You get it, right? The way trauma runs in families? How it keeps repeating?" The words hit like ice water. I understood. God, I understood. But I said nothing, because that's what I'd always done. Elise showed me to the guest room. On the nightstand sat a photo of Ruby at 9, gap-toothed, laughing, her dark curls exploding around her face like she'd just been running through sprinklers. I'd taken that photo. I remembered that day. Ruby had caught a frog and named it Princess Buttercup and cried when we had to let it go. "Where's that little girl?" I whispered, touching the frame. "She's growing up, Mom, healing, becoming regulated." Elise's voice was so flat it scared me. "Dinner's at 6. Rest your knee." She left. I sat on the bed, staring at that photo of my wild, joyful granddaughter, and felt something cold settling in my chest. That night, I woke to tapping. Soft and rhythmic, coming from below. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Tap, tap, tap. Like a heartbeat. Like Morse code. Like someone trapped. I followed the sound through moonlit halls to the kitchen. That's when I saw it. The basement door with a deadbolt on the outside. My hand froze on the cold metal. 14 years old, water-stained ceiling, my mother's voice floating down. It's for your own good, Margaret. Margaret? I spun. Adrian stood in the doorway in expensive pajamas, his face arranged in perfect concern. Is Ruby? Sound therapy exercises. His smile was warm, practiced. She's learning to self-soothe. It's actually a major breakthrough. At 2 in the morning? She sets her own schedule. That's autonomy building. He poured water with careful precision. I'm sure you understand. 30 years teaching. You know about consistency. The way he said it made it clear. Don't interfere. I went back to bed, lay awake listening to that tapping, trying not to remember my own. Morning. Ruby sat at the breakfast table, perfectly still, her hair pulled so tight I could see scalp, her hands folded like a Victorian doll. Good morning, Grandma Margaret. The words were right. Too right. I hope your knee heals quickly. My heart cracked. Come here, baby girl. She looked at Adrian, waited for permission. That's what broke me. That look. That waiting. Then she came to me with careful steps, and I pulled her into my arms. For a moment she was stiff, wooden, and then, God, then she melted into me. Her small body pressed against mine, her heart hammering like something caged. I smelled her hair, still the same baby shampoo, still my Ruby underneath whatever this was. I brought you something. I pulled out the book. Remember? We were going to read it together? Ruby's eyes lit up, really lit up. The first real thing I'd seen from her. She reached for it, then stopped, looked at Adrian again. Books are wonderful, Adrian said smoothly, but Ruby's current reading focuses on emotional literacy and mindfulness practices, age-appropriate material for her healing journey. It's Anne of Green Gables, I said. It's a children's classic, with themes of abandonment, rejection, and family instability. His smile never wavered. Not ideal for Ruby's current developmental stage. Ruby's face went blank again. The light died. I wanted to scream. I missed you, Grandma, Ruby whispered suddenly, desperately. Then caught herself. But Daddy says missing people means we're not practicing presence. We should be grateful for now. Adrian set green smoothies in front of us. Anti-inflammatory. Perfect for healing. I looked at my granddaughter's empty eyes and forced myself to drink. The next afternoon, I pulled out photo albums while Ruby had her brief upstairs time. Pictures of Elise as a child, covered in mud, laughing in trees, wild and free and beautiful. Ruby stared at them like they were from another planet. Mom looks happy. She was happy. We were happy. I found one of all three of us, me, Elise, Ruby at 5, at the beach. Ruby was burying Elise in sand, both of them laughing so hard their faces were red. I remembered that day. The sun, the joy, the way Ruby had said, I love you bigger than the ocean, Grandma. Do you remember this day? I asked. Ruby's fingers traced the photo. For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Something real. Then it died. That was before I understood about healing. Ruby, I took her small hand. It was so cold. Do you like being in the reflection room? She went very still. It helps me be better. Better than what, baby? Better than broken. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Daddy says our family has been broken for generations, since before you. He says it's in our blood, and the only way to fix it is to face it, in the dark, where it lives. The room tilted. Has Adrian hurt you? No. Fierce and immediate. He's helping us, don't you see? Mom cries less now. Then, leaning so close I could feel her breath. She cries in the kitchen when he's asleep. She thinks I don't hear, but I do. My hands went numb. I thought of Elise that first night, standing at the sink, tears streaming silently. How quickly she'd wiped them away when she saw me. That night, the tapping was desperate. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I slid open the deadbolt. descended into darkness, my knee screaming. At the bottom, another door. Unlocked, as if waiting for me. Inside was a pale blue room, and covering the walls, written in a child's increasingly frantic hand. I am learning to sit with discomfort. Day 47. Fear is information. I am listening to my fear. Day 89. Grandma locked Mom away. Mom locked herself away. I am breaking the pattern by staying. Day 134. A mattress on the floor, a bucket in the corner, books about trauma, and on the back wall, scratched over and over. I want to go outside. I want to go outside. I want to go outside. I collapsed. My hands found a wooden box hidden behind books. Inside, journals, old, yellow pages. My mother's handwriting, every detail of my treatment, clinical notes about isolation, about breaking unhealthy attachments, about teaching strength through suffering, and in the margins, Adrian's notes, his analysis. Subject, Margaret Wynne, confined between ages 14 and 19. The methods were crude, but the concept was sound. Her daughter, Elaine Wynne, shows the same trauma patterns. Now, the granddaughter, Ruby Wynne, is starting to display early symptoms. We're implementing a refined version of the original experiment, the idea generational healing, through controlled re-exposure to trauma. Elise had told him everything, about my mother, about my basement, about my 5 lost years. And he'd turned my nightmare into his treatment plan. I don't know how long I sat there on that cold floor. My mother's journals spread around me like evidence of a crime that spanned decades. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the pages, but I forced myself to read every entry, every clinical observation about my captivity, every note Adrian had scribbled in the margins, analyzing my mother's methods like a student studying a master's technique. Day 1. Subject resisted, screaming, door pounding. Expected. Will continue protocol. Day 47. Subject more compliant. Still asks to leave. Explained again. The world damages young women. I am protecting her. Adrian's note beside it. Inconsistent messaging. Subject should never be given reasons. Creates negotiation opportunities. Silence is more effective. Day 298. Subject has stopped asking. Good sign. Depression is temporary. Character building is permanent. Adrian. Depression misinterpreted as acceptance. Subject likely dissociating. Treatment incomplete. He was right. I had been dissociating. I'd spent 5 years of my life in a basement, and when my mother finally let me out at 19, I was so hollowed out I could barely speak. I went to college, got my teaching degree, met a man who was kind enough not to ask too many questions about the gaps in my story, and I never, ever talked about those 5 years. Not to my husband before he died, not to Elise, not to anyone. I'd thought silence was survival. Now I saw it was just preparation for history to repeat itself with better documentation. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Froze. Mom? Elise's voice, soft, uncertain. She appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a robe, her face pale in the dim light. She saw me on the floor, surrounded by journals, and went very still. You found them, she whispered. You knew. My voice came out raw. You knew these were here. Adrian showed me, 2 years ago, when I first told him about Grandma. About the stories you'd let slip when you thought I wasn't listening. She stepped into the room, her arms wrapped around herself. I thought, he said he could help me understand. Help me break the cycle before I passed it to Ruby. So you let him lock her in a basement? It's not the same. Isn't it? I struggled to my feet, pain shooting through my knee. She's 11 years old, Elise, she scratches. I want to go outside, into the walls. How is that different? Because Adrian knows what he's doing, Because it's clinical, it's controlled. Her voice broke. Because I'm doing it with her. I have my own room, my own processing time. We're healing together. I stared at my daughter, really looked at her. The trembling hands, the hollow eyes, the way she stood in the doorway like she was afraid to fully enter, afraid to fully leave. Baby, I said softly, you're not healing. You're dying. No, she shook her head violently. No, you don't understand. You never told me what really happened. You let me grow up thinking I was broken, that my anxiety was my fault, that I needed to be fixed, and you never once explained why. You never gave me the tools to fight it. So you're giving Ruby tools? By putting her in the dark? By teaching her to face it? By showing her she's strong enough to survive what we survived? Tears streamed down Elise's face. Don't you see? Adrian showed me that silence is what keeps trauma alive, that the only way to kill it is to drag it into the light and process it, systematically, until it has no power left. My heart was breaking. And has it worked? Do you feel powerful? She opened her mouth, closed it. Her voice was barely audible. I don't know what I feel anymore. We stood there in that terrible blue room, surrounded by 3 generations of pain, and I made a decision. Not to argue, not to reason, not to try to convince my daughter that her savior was her captor. Because I knew that wouldn't work. The manipulation was too deep, the justifications too practiced. I had to show her, and to do that, I needed help. I needed someone who would believe me. Someone who understood how abuse hides in therapeutic language. Someone who could see what I was seeing. I'm sorry, I said quietly, moving toward the stairs. You're right. I should have told you everything. I should have been honest. Elise looked surprised, suspicious. What are you saying? I'm saying I failed you. I stayed silent when I should have spoken. I paused at the doorway, but I won't make that mistake again. I climbed the stairs slowly, my knees screaming, my heart pounding. Behind me, I heard Elise sink to the floor, heard her pick up my mother's journals, heard her start to cry. Soft, hopeless sobs that sounded exactly like the ones I'd cried 56 years ago in my own blue room. I'm coming back for you, I thought. Both of you, I promise. But first, I needed to find my phone. And I needed to call the one person I knew who specialized in making people see what they'd been trained not to see. Her name was Dr. Sarah Chen, and 20 years ago, she'd been my student teacher. Now she saved people from invisible prisons. I just hoped I'd called her in time. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the guest room with my phone in my hands, staring at Sarah Chen's contact information. I'd looked her up after leaving the basement, found her clinic's website, her credentials, the PBS interview where she talked about psychological abuse hiding in therapeutic language. The most dangerous abusers, she'd said in that interview, are the ones who convince you they're saving you. My finger hovered over the call button. What would I say? My son-in-law is torturing my granddaughter using my childhood trauma as a manual, and my daughter thinks it's therapy? They'd think I was projecting. An old woman with unresolved trauma, seeing monsters where there were none. Maybe I was. Maybe this was grief talking. Grief for the childhood I'd lost, now bleeding into paranoia about rubies. From below, faint and desperate. Tap, tap, tap. I pressed call. Dr. Chen's office. This is the answering service. Of course. It was 3 a.m. I need to leave a message. It's urgent. My voice cracked. My name is Margaret Wynne. I was Dr. Chen's supervising teacher 20 years ago. I need help with a family situation. A child in danger. Please have her call me as soon as possible. I left my number and hung up. Then I sat in the dark, listening to that tapping, and waited for morning. Dr. Chen called at 7 a.m. Margaret Wynne, I remember you. You were tough but fair. made me rewrite my lesson plans 6 times. Her voice was warm, professional. Your message said a child is in danger? I told her everything. About Ruby, about the basement, about Adrian's method and my mother's journals, and the way Elise's hands shook when she portioned out food. Can you send me photos? Dr. Chen asked. Of the room, the journals, anything that documents what you're describing? I can try. But Adrian, he watches everything. He'll know if I... Be careful. Don't put yourself at risk. She paused. Margaret, what you're describing sounds like sophisticated psychological coercion. But without physical abuse, without Ruby being denied food or medical care, it's going to be hard to prove harm. These cases are incredibly difficult. My heart sank. So there's nothing. I didn't say that. I have a colleague at Child Protective Services who specializes in psychological abuse cases. But we'll need documentation, clear evidence. Can you get me that? I thought of Adrian's office, the filing cabinet, the videos. Yes, I said. I can get it. Good. And Margaret? Don't confront him directly. Men like this, when they feel cornered, they escalate. Keep playing along until we have what we need. After we hung up, I sat on the bed and made a plan. I needed to get into Adrian's office. I needed to document everything, and I needed to do it without him knowing. That morning at breakfast, I watched. Adrian sat at the head of the table, calmly eating his precisely portioned oatmeal. Elise moved through the kitchen with mechanical efficiency, measuring, cleaning, organizing. Ruby sat perfectly still, her hands folded, eating exactly 1 spoonful every 30 seconds. Like clockwork, like robots, like prisoners who'd forgotten they were imprisoned. Margaret, Adrian said pleasantly, you look tired. How's the knee? Better. Thank you. I'm glad, he smiled. I was thinking, since you're here, perhaps you'd like to understand our family's healing process better. I could walk you through the methodology, the research behind it. This was a test. I could feel it. He wanted to see if I'd challenge him again or fall in line. I forced a smile. I'd like that. I reacted emotionally yesterday. I want to learn. Something flickered in his eyes. Satisfaction. Excellent. Knowledge dissolves fear. He stood. I have a video session at 9, but afterward we can talk. I think you'll find the science quite compelling. He left the kitchen. I heard his office door close. Elise exhaled. A small, shaky sound. Thank you, she whispered, for trying to understand. I looked at my daughter. Really looked. Her hands were gripping the counter so hard her knuckles were white. Elise, I said softly, are you okay? I'm fine. Automatic. Rehearsed. Then, quieter. I'm just tired. When's the last time you slept through the night? She stared at the sink. I don't remember. Ruby's spoon clinked against her bowl. Exactly on rhythm. Exactly on schedule. I wanted to grab them both and run. Instead, I stood and kissed Elise's cheek. Rest if you can. I'll clean up. She nodded and drifted away like a ghost. Ruby remained at the table, her eyes tracking something I couldn't see. Grandma, she whispered, can I ask you something? Always, baby. Do you think, she glanced toward the hallway where Elise had disappeared, do you think Mom is happy? The question gutted me. Why do you ask? Because Daddy says she's healing, that we're all healing together. But, her voice dropped even lower, but she cries every night. I hear her through the walls. I knelt down beside her chair, ignoring the pain in my knee. What else do you hear? Ruby's eyes filled with tears. She says I'm sorry over and over, but I don't know what she's sorry for. My throat tightened. Ruby. Time for morning reflection, Ruby. Adrian's voice from the hallway made us both jump. Ruby's face went blank instantly. She stood, smoothed her clothes, walked toward the basement door like a little soldier. I watched her descend into the dark. Adrian stood in the doorway, watching me. She's making remarkable progress. You'll see. I nodded, smiled, played the role. And inside, I was planning his destruction. While Adrian was in his video session, I made my move. His office was unlocked. Arrogant? Or maybe he genuinely didn't think anyone would dare go through his things. The filing cabinet opened easily. Inside, Ruby's treatment file. Dozens of pages documenting her progress. I photographed everything with my phone, my hands shaking. Week 1. Subject shows resistance to the isolation. Crying, bargaining. Expected baseline reaction. Week 4. Subject beginning to self-regulate, asking permission before speaking, a good sign. Week 12. Subject has internalized that discomfort means growth. No longer asks to leave the room. Treatment progressing as projected. Subject. He called his daughter Subject. I found the videos next. Hours of footage of Ruby in that blue room. I couldn't watch them. Couldn't stomach seeing my granddaughter's face as she sat in the dark, alone, learning to call her suffering love. I sent everything to Dr. Chen. Then I found something else. A notebook tucked behind the files. Elise's handwriting. Not the journal I'd seen mentioned. This was different, older. The pages yellowed. I think Adrian might be right. Maybe I am too anxious, too controlling. Maybe that's why Ruby struggles. She learned it from me. If I can heal myself, I can heal her. The entries continued, dated over 2 years. Adrian suggested I try a short isolation period, just an hour, to understand what Ruby will experience. He says empathy requires shared experience. 3 hours today. It was harder than I thought. But Adrian says that means it's working. That means I'm processing. Ruby starts her program next week. I'm scared. But Adrian showed me the research. Showed me how this could save her from becoming like me. Broken, anxious, unable to function. The dates made my blood run cold. Elise had been in treatment for 6 months before Ruby's program started. Adrian had groomed her first, convinced her she was broken, made her his accomplice by making her his first victim. I heard footsteps in the hall. I shoved everything back, closed the cabinet, slipped out of the office just as Adrian's door opened. "Margaret?" He looked at me, curious. "Everything all right?" "Just looking for the bathroom." Got turned around. He smiled. Didn't quite believe me, but he nodded. Down the hall, second door. I escaped to the guest room and sent Dr. Chen one more text. He treated Elise first. For months. She thinks it was her choice, but he made her believe that. Her reply came right away. Classic manipulation. Get whatever else you can. We need solid proof. That afternoon, while Ruby was in her reflection time and Adrian was out meeting a client, I found Elise in the laundry room. She was folding the same towel over and over, her hands moving mechanically, tears streaming silently down her face. "Sweetheart." She looked up, startled, quickly wiped her eyes. "I'm fine, just—" "You don't have to say you're fine," Adrian says. She stopped, pressed her hands to her face. God, I can't even think without his voice in my head. I moved closer. "What do you want, Elise? Not what Adrian wants. Not what's best for Ruby's healing. What do you want?" She stared at the towel in her hands. When she spoke, her voice was so small I barely heard it. "I want to sleep without nightmares. I want to hear Ruby laugh. I want—" A sob broke through. "I want to stop being so fucking scared all the time." I pulled her into my arms. She collapsed against me, shaking. "He's helping us," she whispered desperately. "I know it looks bad, but he's helping. Baby, he's hurting you." No, you don't understand. Before Adrian, I could barely function. The anxiety was crippling. He gave me tools, structure. He saved me. By locking you in a bathroom? She went rigid, pulled back. How did you? I found your journal, the old one. Her face went white. You went through his office. I had to. Elise, please, listen to me. No. She backed away. You're doing exactly what he said you'd do. Projecting. You can't handle seeing me heal because it means facing that you never did. This isn't healing. Get out. The scream shocked us both. Elise stood there, trembling, her face twisted with rage and terror and something that looked horribly like grief. Get out of this room. Get out of my house. Just, her voice broke, just leave me alone. I stared at my daughter. Then I left the laundry room. But I didn't leave the house. Because I'd made a promise, and I was done breaking promises to protect people from truth. That evening, I tried something desperate. I waited until Adrian was asleep. He went to bed at exactly 10 p.m. every night, like clockwork. Then I crept downstairs and opened the basement door. Ruby was awake, sitting on her mattress in the dark. Grandma? Her voice was tiny. Baby, I need you to come with me. Right now. I can't. It's not my outside time. I don't care about the schedule. I held out my hand. Ruby, we need to leave. You and me and your mom. We need to go somewhere safe. She stared at my hand like it was a snake. Daddy says you'd try this. He says your trauma makes you want to rescue people who don't need rescuing. Ruby. He says if I go with you, Mom will never forgive me. That I'll ruin her healing. That I'll prove I'm too broken to fix. Tears streamed down her face. Please don't make me choose, Grandma. Please. You don't have to choose. We'll take your mom too. She won't come. Ruby's voice was flat. Certain. She loves him. And he's helping her. And if I leave, she curled into herself. If I leave, I'll be the reason our family breaks. I'll be the broken one, just like Daddy said. I knelt on the cold floor, took her small, cold hands. Listen to me, you are not broken. None of this is your fault, and your daddy. My voice cracked. Baby, your daddy is lying to you. No. She pulled her hands away. You're lying. You have to be lying. Because if you're not, she started to hyperventilate. If you're not, then everything I've done, all the hours in the dark, all the times I was scared, it was for nothing. It was all for nothing. Ruby. Go away. She scrambled back against the wall. Get out! Get out before Daddy finds you here. I heard footsteps on the stairs. The light flicked on. Adrian stood there in his pajamas, looking at me with cold, calculated fury. Breaking and entering the treatment space, attempting to remove Ruby against protocol, his voice was soft. Dangerous. Margaret, I've been patient. I've tried to help you understand, but you're becoming a genuine threat to this family's well-being. I'm trying to save them. You're trying to destroy them. He moved down the stairs slowly. Ruby, go to your mother's room. Now. Ruby scrambled past us, her face streaked with tears. Adrian waited until she was gone. Then he looked at me, and the mask fell away completely. You need to leave, he said quietly. Tomorrow morning. Or I call the police and tell them my wife's mother is having a psychotic break. That she's become violent. Dangerous. He smiled. I'm a respected therapist with a spotless reputation. You're a 70-year-old woman with untreated trauma and a history of psychiatric issues. Yes, I found your mother's records. Who do you think they'll believe? My blood ran cold. You can't. I can, and I will. He stepped closer. I'm giving you a way out. Take it. Leave quietly. Let us heal. Or I'll make sure you never see either of them again. He turned and walked upstairs. I stood there in that terrible blue room, defeat crushing me. I'd failed. Ruby wouldn't leave. Elise wouldn't listen. And Adrian had all the power. I climbed the stairs slowly. But I didn't pack my bags. Because Dr. Chen had said, Don't confront him directly. Document everything. Wait until we have what we need. Well, now I had one more thing to document. I pulled out my phone and recorded a voice memo. Adrian Hartwell just threatened me. Said if I don't leave, he'll have me declared mentally unstable. He knows I found his files. He knows I'm trying to get help. And he's escalating. I sent it to Dr. Chen with a message. He knows. We need to move fast. How soon can you get here? Her response came at 2 a.m. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Be ready. This is going to get ugly. I sat in the dark of the guest room, listening to the house breathe. Somewhere, Ruby was crying herself to sleep. Somewhere, Elise was lying awake, drowning in doubt. And somewhere, Adrian was planning his next move. But so was I. Because I'd been silent for 56 years. And tomorrow, I was going to scream. The next morning, I played the perfect house guest one last time. I made coffee, set the table, smiled at Adrian when he came downstairs, freshly showered and composed, as if last night's threat had never happened. Good morning, Margaret. His voice was pleasant. Sleep well? Very well, thank you. Elise appeared, moving like a ghost. Ruby followed, her eyes red and swollen. We sat, we ate in silence. The clock ticked toward 10 a.m. At 9:47, I excused myself. I need to get something from my room. Adrian's eyes tracked me. Suspicious. But he nodded. I went to the guest room and texted Dr. Chen. We're ready. Then I sat on the bed, hands folded, heart hammering, and waited. At exactly 10 a.m., the doorbell rang. I heard Elise's confused voice. Can I help you? Mrs. Hartwell, I'm Dr. Sarah Chen. This is Detective Morrison and caseworker Patricia Valdez. We need to speak with you about Ruby. Silence. Then Elise, her voice rising. What? Who? Adrian. I stood, walked slowly to the living room. Adrian appeared from his office, his face arranged in perfect concern. Then he saw me standing there, and understanding flooded his eyes. You, he said softly. Me, I replied. Detective Morrison was already photographing the basement door. Patricia Valdez stood with her clipboard, her kind eyes taking in everything, the rigid perfection of the house, Elise's hollow face, Ruby pressed against the wall. Mr. Hartwell, Dr. Chin said calmly, we've received documentation of concerning treatment practices. We need to see Ruby's living space. All of it. This is outrageous. Adrian's voice was controlled, but I heard the rage underneath. I'm a licensed therapist conducting family-based trauma treatment. In a locked basement? Patricia's voice was steel. A therapeutic space. Show us. Now. For a moment, I thought Adrian would refuse, would call his lawyer, would spin this into something else entirely. Then Ruby spoke. Her voice was tiny, broken. I'll show you. Everyone stopped. Ruby stepped forward, her small body shaking. She looked at Adrian, and for the first time since I'd arrived, I saw something other than fear in her eyes. I saw anger. I'll show you my reflection room, she said, each word deliberate. I'll show you where I spend 16 hours alone, where I write on the walls because there's nothing else to do, where I beg to go outside and nobody comes. Ruby! Adrian's voice had an edge now. No. Ruby's chin lifted. Just slightly. Just enough. Grandma asked me last night if I wanted to leave. I said no because I was scared. Scared you wouldn't love me. Scared I'd break Mom. Her voice cracked. But I'm more scared of staying. Elise made a sound. Half sob, half gasp. She moved toward Ruby, but Patricia stepped between them gently. Mrs. Hartwell let her speak. Ruby took a shaking breath. I want to show them the room. I want them to see. Then show us, Dr. Chen said softly. Ruby led them to the basement door. Her small hand reached for the keypad. She knew the code, of course she did. and punched it in. The lock clicked. They descended. I stayed in the living room with Elise and Adrian. The silence was suffocating. Elise stood frozen, her face white. We were helping her. Were we? The words burst out of me. Look at her, Elise. Really look. Is that what helping looks like? You don't understand. I understand perfectly. My voice was quiet, deadly. Because I lived it. 56 years ago, my mother did the same thing Adrian's doing. She called it protection. She called it strength building. She called it love. I moved closer, and it almost killed me. Elise's face crumpled. But Adrian said, he said we were breaking the cycle. He was perfecting it. Adrian finally spoke, his voice cold. You've destroyed this family, Margaret. I hope you're satisfied. No, I said, you destroyed it. I'm just the one who stopped pretending otherwise. Footsteps on the stairs. Dr. Chen emerged first, her face grim. Behind her, Patricia, with her arm around Ruby's shoulders. Detective Morrison was still photographing. Patricia looked directly at Adrian. Mr. Hartwell, based on what we've seen and Ruby's testimony, we're placing her in emergency protective custody. On what grounds? Adrian's control was fracturing. Child confinement, psychological abuse, coercive control. Patricia's voice was steady. Ruby has described extended isolation, sleep deprivation through forced meditation schedules, and emotional manipulation disguised as therapy. The physical evidence supports her account. This is therapeutic treatment conducted by a licensed professional. It's torture, doctor, Chen said flatly. And you know it. You studied your wife's family trauma and weaponized it. You isolated both of them, convinced them suffering was healing, and documented it all for your book. Adrian went very still. My research is confidential. Was confidential. I pulled out my phone. I photographed everything. Your files, your videos, your mother's journals with your notes, all of it. His face went white with rage. You had no right. I had every right. My voice was shaking. She's my granddaughter, and you were killing her slowly while calling it love. Elise made a broken sound. She looked at Adrian. I really looked at him, and I saw the moment the spell finally, completely shattered. You were going to publish this, she whispered. Ruby's pain, my pain. You were going to make it into a book. Adrian's jaw tightened. To help thousands of families. You used us. Her voice was rising. You knew what my grandmother did to my mother. You knew how it destroyed her. And you thought you could do it better? She was screaming now, her face twisted with anguish. What is wrong with you? I was saving you. You were killing us. The words echoed through the perfect, silent house. Patricia stepped forward. Mrs. Hartwell, we need to ask, do you feel safe with your husband? Elise looked at Adrian, at the man she'd trusted, loved, led into the darkest corners of her pain, the man who'd turned her trauma into his laboratory. No, she whispered. No, I don't. Patricia nodded. Then we need you both to come with us. Separately. We have some questions, and Ruby needs you. Elise moved toward Ruby, knelt down. Baby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know, Mom. Ruby's voice was small but steady. Can we go now? Can we just go? Yeah, baby, we can go. The next hours were a blur. Police, social workers, emergency custody hearings. Adrian removed from the home with a restraining order. Elise and Ruby placed in temporary housing while the investigation continued. I gave my statement, showed them everything, told them about my own 5 years in darkness, about how Adrian had studied my nightmare like a textbook. Dr. Chen sat beside me through all of it. You did the right thing, she said quietly. It was brave. It was late, I said. I should have acted sooner. You acted when you could. That's what matters. 3 months later, I stood in Elise's new backyard, a small rental house, modest but bright, watching Ruby play in the sprinkler. She was running. Really running. Not the careful, controlled movements from before. Her hair was wild, her laugh loud and completely unself-conscious. Her friend Grace was with her, and they were shrieking and splashing and being gloriously, messily 11. She looks different, Elise said beside me. We stood close, but not touching, still rebuilding trust, still learning how to be mother and daughter again. She looks free. Elise nodded. Her face was thinner, older. Therapy twice a week was dragging up everything she'd buried. Some days she could barely function, but she was fighting. Both of them were. I'm still angry at you sometimes, she said quietly. I know. For not telling me sooner. For letting me grow up in the shadow of something I couldn't understand. I know. I took her hand. I'm angry at me, too. She squeezed my fingers. But I'm grateful. You saved us, Mom. Even when I hated you for it, you saved us. Ruby ran over, dripping wet, her face flushed with joy. Grandma! Mom! Come on! The water's perfect! I don't have my suit, Elise said. So? Ruby grinned. That gap-toothed grin I'd been afraid we'd lost forever. Who cares? Elise looked at me. I shrugged. She has a point. We walked out into the spray together. 3 generations of Win women, fully clothed, getting soaked. Ruby danced around us. Grace joined in. And for the first time in months, I heard Elise laugh. Really laugh. The sound was rusty, unpracticed, but it was real. Later, after Grace went home and Ruby was toweling off, she came and sat beside me on the patio steps. Grandma? Yeah, baby? Thank you. Her voice was soft, for not leaving me in the dark. My throat tightened. I should have gotten you out sooner. But you did get me out. That's what matters. She leaned against my shoulder, warm and damp and alive. Daddy always said being scared meant you were weak. But you were scared, and you saved me anyway. That's not weak. No, I said softly. That's just being human. We sat there as the sun set, water dripping from our clothes, and I thought about cycles and silence and the way trauma echoes through generations. But I also thought about this. Ruby, free. Elise, healing. Me, finally speaking. And I thought about how sometimes breaking something is the only way to save it. 6 months after that day, I stood in a community center speaking to 50 women about the room below. I told them about silence and suffering and the lies we tell ourselves when we're desperate to believe pain equals love. I told them about my mother's basement, Adrian's revolution, and the choice I almost didn't make. For 56 years, I said, I thought my story was too ugly to share. That silence was dignity. I looked out at those faces, some crying, some nodding, all carrying their own heavy secrets. But trauma isn't healed by hiding it. It's healed by dragging it into the light and saying, this happened, and it wasn't okay. After, women lined up to share their stories in whispers, in tears, in fierce bursts. One elderly woman squeezed my hands and said, I spent 15 years in my father's attic. My whole family kept the secret. I thought I was the only one. You're not, I told her. You never were. A year after everything fell apart, Ruby turned 12. Her birthday party filled our modest backyard with chaos. School friends, soccer teammates, the beautiful noise of childhood reclaimed. I watched her blow out candles, surrounded by laughter, and felt something in my chest finally loosen. Elise stood beside me, her arm around my waist. She asked me yesterday if she could talk to someone about everything, for a school project on resilience. What did you say? I said it's her story to tell, however she wants. Elise's voice was quiet. That's the difference, isn't it? Between what happened to us and what she's building now. She gets to choose. Ruby ran over, frosting on her face. Grandma, I got a telescope. Come over next weekend and we'll look at stars? I would love that. She hugged me tight, then whispered, Can you tell me more about great-grandma sometime? The real story? My chest tightened, but I nodded. Yeah, baby, I can do that. Because that's what healing looks like. Not forgetting, not pretending the pain never happened, but speaking it aloud, letting the light in, breaking the silence that almost killed us. I'm 71 now. Ruby is thriving. Elise is learning to turn pain into purpose. And me, I'm still learning that telling the truth is harder than silence, but it's the only thing that saves us. If this story found you, if you're carrying something heavy, please remember, your voice matters. Trauma can be inherited, but so can healing. Someone just has to be brave enough to begin. So ask yourself, if not now, when? If not you, who? We're never too old to choose truth, to choose the light, and I promise you, it's worth the breaking open.